Imagine living in an isolated farm, surrounded by forest, with no neighbors or other person nearby. And then one day, you begin hearing footsteps above your head every night, slow, heavy, deliberate. At first, you tell yourself it's nothing. Maybe a mice, maybe the wind, maybe you are hallucinating things. But then, you discover footprints in the snow. Footprints coming from the forest, straight towards your house. And the most disturbing thing is that there are no footprints leading back out. Someone came, but according to the snow, they never left. This is the story of the Hinterkaifeck Murders, one of the most disturbing, terrifying, unsolved crimes in history. And what makes this case so disturbing is that almost every warning sign was there. But nobody realized the danger until it was too late. The year was 1922. Deep in the Bavarian countryside of Germany stood a small farm known as Hinterkaifeck. The nearest town was over a mile away. The nearest neighbors lived far enough that screams in the middle of the night might never be heard. It was isolated, quiet, peaceful, or at least that's how it appeared. Living on the farm were 6 people. 63-year-old Andrea Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria Gabriel, and Victoria's 2 children, 7-year-old Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph. There was also a maid who had recently started working at the farm. 6 people living ordinary lives, completely unaware that someone might already be watching them. Months before the murders, strange events began occurring. Andreas noticed footprints on the snow. They came from the nearby woods and then directly to the farm. Curious, he followed them. But there were no footprints leading away. No tracks leaving. Nothing. Whoever had arrived had seemingly vanished out of nowhere. The things became even stranger. Andreas discovered a newspaper inside the house. No one in the family recognized the newspaper. Nobody had purchased it. Nobody knew where it came from. It was if someone had entered the home without being noticed, left the newspaper on the counter, and that was everything. Not long afterward, a set of keys disappeared. The family searched everywhere, but they were gone, completely gone. And then came the sounds. Footsteps coming from the attic. Heavy footsteps, late at night, night after night. Terrified, the previous maid quit her job. She claimed the house was haunted. She told friends that she heard strange noises that could no longer stay there. Nobody took her seriously. People laughed. They assumed she was like superstitious. A replacement maid arrived on March 31st, 1922. It was her first day. She had no idea that it'd also be her last. That evening, something happened inside the farm. One by one, members of the family were lured there, like if somebody was just calling them from the barn. Investigators later believe the killer managed to bring them individually into the barn. First Andreas, then his wife, then Victoria, then little Cecilia, each one attacked with a farming tool called a mattock. One after another, no one escaped their destiny. But the horror wasn't over. Inside the house, the killer murdered the 2-year-old Joseph in his crib, and then the new maid. 6 victims, 1 killer, and nobody saw a thing or saw this coming. But what happened next will make the case truly terrifying, because according to the investigators, the killer didn't leave. He stayed for days. Neighbors noticed smoke rising from the chimney. Animals were being fed. Fresh bread had been eaten. Someone had milked the cows. Someone was caring for the farm. As if nothing had happened, which meant the killer had been living among the bodies, sleeping in the house, walking through the rooms, eating meals, and listening to the silence. For 4 days, neighbors came concerned when the family failed to appear. A search party entered the property, and what they discovered shocked complete Germany. The bodies were found and the investigation began. But despite interviewing over 100 suspects, despite years of investigation, despite decades of theories, nobody was ever convicted. Nobody was ever officially identified. And to this day, more than a century later, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain unsolved. Some believe the killer was someone close to the family. Others believe the murderer had secretly been living in the attic before the killings. And some investigators think that the family maybe have unknowingly shared their home with their killer for days, or perhaps weeks. And maybe the most disturbing of all is this: those footsteps heard in the attic, the missing keys, the newspaper, the footprints in the snow were no signs of ghosts. They were warnings. Warnings that someone was already inside the house. And by the time the family realized it, there was no escape. So, what do you think? Who was responsible for the Hinterkaifeck murders? And more importantly, how long had they been watching the family? Let me know your theory below. And remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that are true. Thank you very much for hearing this story. I hope you like it. And any theory, as I mentioned, as wild as it can sound, you can go ahead and share it down below in the comments. And if you like this type of content, please subscribe to this channel so I can continue making this type of content. That will be all. But my theory will be that someone was actually in the house. Like, imagine one day you live like far away in the country and you see like footsteps on the snow going in your house, but no footsteps going out your house. Maybe the wind disappeared those footsteps, but It wouldn't make any sense. Uh, I think there was somebody in the house that he was already prepared to do what he was about to do, and that he did. Well, thank you very much for hearing. Have a wonderful rest of the night, okay? Bye bye.